Welcome everybody to the Micro Solidarity Network call. It's April 2026, and we're running this series of Present Your Project. Um, there's chats that are distracting me. Yes, we're putting recording faces on, and we were just checking in with each other, and now we're starting the recording. So if you were not here with us today, you can still catch up with what's going on in the network. And today we're having two presenters who are bringing their projects for us to learn about and give them feedback and reflect on them. And it's Maeby who's gonna present Artwhole, and Victor who's gonna present Liminal Spaces. And the way we organize the meeting is we're gonna have Maeby presenting first for 10, 15 minutes, then we'll do a round of reflection and questions and answers and whatever emerges. Then we'll take a little break, and then we have Victor and we go around again, and then we wrap up our time together. So we're ready to launch. Would you like to start, maybe?
Hey, I'm Maeby. Thank you, Guy. And yeah, today I'm presenting Artwhole, which is my first ever paid container. It's a 4 week, uh, I guess, like series of calls for up to 8 artists and the purpose is to have us get together and like commit to our craft sort of as a group and also help unblock each other, support each other, provide feedback and challenge each other as well. Um, yeah, and I'm hoping this container will also like morph over time. I would love to run it multiple times and see what shape it wants to take, try different formats. It feels very experimental and exciting for me. Like that itself is like an art form for me. And the motivation for it is that I lately have been wanting to devote my whole like life force to art, but in a holistic way. So that like includes my, you know, emotional growth and my spiritual growth and my physical health and also the people I surround myself with, like all my habits and how I live my life. And something that was missing for me was like feeling like having other people around me who orient in a similar way to like their life force to what's important to them, which without that makes it hard to like stay on track. And that's a common complaint I think with many artists. Just discipline is one word for it, but I like to use the word devotion instead, or dedication. um yeah, and so I guess I have like I can explain more about it, but it feels like maybe it makes more sense to talk about my sort of questions and like uncertainty about it, and like where I'm, yeah, what I'm trying to figure out still. So like at the core, the important thing for me is to like, it's not, the point of Artwhole is not to like have emotional breakthroughs or to like, you know, answer each other's questions really well, or like have a really good like oh yeah, everyone liked my work, or or not to have a transformational whatever, but just to make art. And all those things might happen in service of that. um but yeah, so I everything that I do wants to serve this purpose, and I sort of see three elements as being part of that. There's the fellowship, or sangha in Buddhist terms. There's and then there's two things that seem maybe like a yin and yang. Like there's structure and like commitment and like doing it every day, rain or shine, whatever, going back to the studio all the time. And then the third thing is divine spark, and like the thing that you can't really control, like just like God coming into you and making you write a play for 3 hours and it's perfect. And yeah, so all of these three things I want to cultivate through Artwhole, and like help each other like cultivate this thing. And so that might inform, yeah, thanks, Victor, for writing it out. That maybe will can help inform how I look at these questions that I have about it. So, oh, and one more thing is like looking at the applications I've gotten so far, I asked people what their creative challenges were, like what the biggest challenges they face. And so many people said commitment. So that's like a top thing for people. Like, I just want a space to do it. And that's a big part of the value of Artwhole. But yeah, other people also said like imposter syndrome, like I'm not really an artist, perfectionism, fear, and then wanting community, um, which are all I think fit well into this the thing I described. So yeah, I guess the first thing I can say I have a question about, which relates very strongly to micro solidarity, is what are all the ways I can cultivate and nurture the group field? Um, so there's going to be like up to 9 people, including myself. There's I'm planning to have like group activities with stuff like emotional and somatic work to sort of, I guess, help us all like feel aligned, like inner bodies, sharing and journaling and reflecting together, and and also like sharing our work and like giving feedback in front of the group. And then breakout rooms, of course, like I like the idea of groups of 3 for sharing commitments and sort of a pod of 3 that maybe like is consistent throughout the 4 weeks. Like you sort of meet together to like share your commitments and maybe text during the week. And maybe pair work or something. I'm not so clear on that. Um, and then yeah, so okay, that's like the sort of like elements of the group feel. It's a little fuzzy, and I have it in mind to like do something like troika, peer coaching, or other formats of like peer coaching, um, or like things adapted from authentic relating to help people like feel seen and see each other in their creative process. Um, yeah. Oh, and yeah, I guess I can say also the format of Artwhole is every week for 4 weeks, a 90-minute meeting where we do all this stuff. And then 2 70-hour meetings every week also for just making art in silence together. And one of these art hours will be public, open to the public. So for other people to sample what it's like, and also just like have community infrastructure around art. Um, Other questions I have are a sort of uncertainty about my own role, whether I'm like, oh, I'm just another participant. I'm just one of the 9 artists here. I'm, getting the same thing out of it that you all are, um, which is helpful for like aligning, like for helpful for keeping the frame of like, I'm just building the cohort that I want for myself. And the other frame is I am a guide of some kind. I'm like, which I will be. I will be leading and holding the container. I will be directing it. But it's unclear to me like to what degree I can step into the role of like teacher or coach. Like, I have some hesitations around that, and maybe I don't need to, and also maybe I don't need to figure out the tension immediately, or the sort of like which role where in the spectrum I am. Um, but I have a story that like it's made the shape of the container come out like a little unclear. So that's like another uh, spectrum I'm trying to figure out versus participant versus teacher. Mm. Oh, I have a logistical question, which is 2 things, 2 like activities that are important to me to include. One is feels very important to me, which is like everyone getting a chance at least once to present their art to the group and then receive feedback of some kind on it, with some more like uh, more from the frame of like emotional truth and like I guess honesty and clarity of vision, as opposed to like a traditional art school crit. And another thing I'd like to do is maybe some kind of coaching, which again I have hangups about, as I mentioned, but like hypothetically, a whole group of 9 people, and then people take turns asking questions that I answer, or maybe another person like answers, or not just answers, but like provides prompting, or like tells them like, hey, like, can you feel, what does it say in your body, etc. Like kind of coaching type things, but in front of the group. And there's 9 people, 8 if you don't include me. And within 4 90-minute calls, there's like limited space. So I'm like trying to figure out how to do this. And I feel like 90 crits in a row, or sorry, 9 crits in a row would be really boring. And 9 like coaching sessions in a row is going to also be really boring. Um, so I don't know if it makes sense to like split it up across 2 calls, but I don't want to take up the whole 2 calls to do just those things. So yeah, that's something I want to figure out. And then 2 more questions I had were about flexibility. Because again, if I'm orienting to my most important thing, which is like we want to be aligned in our creative life and make art, I'm gonna have to be attuned to how different people are struggling at different points and like what they need in each moment, which means like I could make the most beautiful like structured like curriculum or like lesson plan. I hate calling it a lesson plan, but like plan for the sessions. But then it goes out the window if like it turns out we need something totally different. And I'm trying to figure out how to balance the adaptability with preparedness, and maybe more experienced facilitators generally could like give advice on that. And the last thing is um, each of the 4 weeks has there's a sort of arc that I've sketched out for them. So week 1 is like opening the container, setting intentions, and like finding out what our vision is exactly. Week 2 is roughly like creative unblocking, emotional unblocking. Week 3 is like peer support and coaching, and also like maybe going deeper into the blocks. Like week 2 is fun, like doing unhinged like stuff to like loosen up your intuition and creativity. And week 3 maybe more about like yeah, getting into the hard stuff and like getting into actual issues people are running into. And I don't know if weeks 2 and 3 should be switched. And then week 4 is integration, closing, how to, you know, continue this energy that we built up into the rest of our lives and not just have like a one-off transformational experience that leaves us unchanged after. Um, and I guess, yeah, I still have a lot of questions about how to host weeks 1 and week and 4. Like so far, I have stuff like getting to know each other. I would like to develop like create a group field as much as I can in week 1, but I'm not sure how I can do that well. I'm thinking of like prompts and like introducing people to their pods and setting up commitments, but it all feels a little dry or boring to me or something. But maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's not at all. And yeah, I have no idea what week 4 might look like what kinds of activities or prompts I can give people to help us like continue our commitments to ourselves and our art afterwards, but also maybe to each other. Like I'm not sure how strongly I want to like suggest um and we can keep up the Telegram group and keep chatting with each other, and I think that'll happen organically if it wants to happen. But yeah, so the beginning and end are often the hardest things to plan for or to design. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think those are my main questions. That was a lot, and thank you so much, Victor, for taking notes. But yeah, and since we're in the micro solidarity call, that might be a good like if you I feel like connections between people are maybe the most important thing for making all the other magic happen. And so I feel like you guys probably have more ideas than that. But yeah, whatever is alive for you, I would love to hear about. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm full of questions and also like yeah, welcoming your questions. Like they're very like the questions themselves are very inspiring. So it's good to hear how well sorted you have it already. Even if you don't know the answers yet. It seems like you know what you're um, yeah, what you want to figure it out before launching. So thanks. And I really appreciate the uh, writing in the chat because I was writing on my notebook and then you start writing there. I was like, oh, good. So now we have it handy. And yeah, I would like to invite us to just freely reflect back, or if anybody feels inspired to take the
Oh,
word.
something jumped up for me. I mean, lots of things came out, and like the kind of questions that you're asking, like I like are really resonant with like my own experience in hosting and whatnot. Um, the one that like stood out was the like, what is your relationship with your role, or like how it is that you're participating? And like the one thing that's like most clear about that to me is that of all the people who are going to be in the container, you are likely to be the one that cares most, about the sort of meta or like reflexive kind of, the evolution of the space, right? And that means that there's something that you may be alone in caring for. But the question like I've got about that is it possible to not be alone in that, to sort of like both be a participant and to invite a co-stewardship of the space?
Wow. I one thing I do want to mention that I forgot about is that two friends of mine who have participated in a similar space, more informal one that I hosted in the past, will also be joining Artwhole with me, and I invited them to, have people to who are kind of on board with what I'm doing and understand a bit more of the context. But the level of like caring about the meta of the container, I'm not sure it's like quite that level of support, but yeah, I really appreciate that point.
I'll layer in one other little bit, which is that like if you're the source of the thing, you're the source of the thing. And like that means that like the success of the thing somewhat depends upon like your groundedness, you know, in it. At least that's how I feel about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just riffing off of that, it sounds to me, also from what I've heard you say to me about it in other moments outside this call, that you have quite a sort of felt sense of what you want it to be, what it would be, and what it's not really about, and also from the writing you've done about it so far. And yeah, I think it was really good to hear that you have people there who kind of like could be your buddies or who have familiarity with your style, and you can. I was going to ask you actually, like, do you have someone that you could be who could at least be your buddy, even if they're not part of it, but great if they are, to help you reflect on like how it's going along the way, particularly in relation to this, like how do you plan for week 1 and 4? Um, I was reflecting on like how we have designed some of like the micro solidarity events, and we really lean on this just in time design in some ways. Like there's always like good to have an idea of the arc as which you already have. Like where do you want to end up um, at the end together? And you already have research from your intake, which was great to hear that you already have a sense of people who struggle with commitment, and what would be the ideal place where you all end up in.
Mm.
Maybe you don't have to know how week 4 is exactly structured yet, but you could use your buddy friends and the other participants who kind of know you a bit better, or who you feel more able to like reveal your behind the facilitator face or the inner workings of your role to, and have them support you to kind of figure it out as you go. Maybe the group itself will show you what it needs along the way, and you don't have to, like, what if you didn't have to design it all up front in
Yeah.
detail, and the
Yeah.
broad brushstrokes, haha, no pun intended, would be enough. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good reminder. Thank you.
Mm.
Week 1 though, I'm like, eh.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
I
the
hear. I'm
oh,
sorry.
just that buddies can be like non-participants too. And I do have like many friends, like including you, for instance, who are
Mm.
supporting in like big or small ways, like, are on board knowing what I'm doing.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, I guess you had those prototypes, but this is like the first offer, official offer, and your intention is to keep doing it or keep adjusting it. So yeah, inviting some of that experimental uncertainty to the first one and being like more like leaning more into like sensing and feeling and that it can, yeah, you probably will know more as you do it. Like there is, I guess what I'm trying to say is like there is no way that you will know before you do it. And even if you think you do, then it will become something different, most likely. So yeah, just keeping that as the playfulness of that as in
Mm.
art itself, I guess.
When you say that, it suddenly feels like way more alive and exciting and fun, which is that's great. Thank you.
I just wrote in the chat something around like it touched me just what you were saying there, Guy, is like you won't know because a group is like a living system which changes as time goes by, and maybe the best way is to have an idea but like sense and respond as you go, like sensing and responding to the complexity and what emerges, and while still, as Victor was saying, like having a sense of where you, like you being the source, you have a directive energy that's sort of given to you. You have that authority just simply by being the initiator. Yeah.
I also want to point out, I mentioned this to you before, but I feel like a spotlight effect around you in the spaces that we share. And so there's already a natural tendency I perceive for you to have this teacher-like role. In the sense, I feel myself wanting to learn from you in the subtle, like I'm just attuning to what is it like, how do you behave in the world? Um, and I guess I bring that up to also relieve some of the planning tension because art already is part of your life. It already is your devotional practice. There's learning happening.
Thank you, Michael. That's so fascinating and also, yeah, helpful to hear. And also makes me like aware of, I think, the pitfall of like shying away from authority or something. Because if apparently do have an air of authority inherently, that will come off as very incongruent. Yeah.
Hmm. Unlike Michael, like I don't have the benefit of knowing you or seeing you like, in action. Um, so the observation that I made was partially, well, clearly you care about something, and like if you're showing up caring for that thing enough to be putting on to be putting on a thing, and that you have experience putting on things before, then like, what more does one need in order to, well, okay, that doesn't feel right to say, but I'll say it anyway. So like, what more does one need in order to like feel like, grounded and confident, and so nothing more to prove in that regard, right? Um, the other thing was like I wanted to share that like a learning edge for me. The learning edge for me is about like how to show up in a way that's congruent with my values, right? But isn't like I have my own questions about my own authority and power. Like, that's clearly like my edge. And the way that I get around that for myself is to, instead of uh, claiming something, right? Instead, look for ways to model what it is that I want to see. And so if I'm able to model what it is that I want to see, then it's sort of default leaderful, but without demand.
Mm.
I love that. Thank you.
I'm curious how you would, on that, like, if you were modeling something and people reflected it back to you or showed up in the group in a way you really loved, like, how would you love people to show up in the group?
Oh, what a good question. Thank you. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is like, and this feels like oh, it's not the correct, like I'm not supposed to be like this, but like like I guess needing something from it. Which I mean, it makes sense. Like, I don't want people to come and they're not engaged or not feeling, or if they're too self-sufficient or something. Like, yeah, I guess coming in with an openness to the thing that I have to offer, including like my teaching, my like modeling of how I am. Yeah, this feels very forbidden to say, but like people who, yeah, to put it like just explicitly, like people who want to be more like me or learn the thing that I want to learn. Yeah, it's not exactly that I want them to want to be like me, but rather I want us to be all aspiring to the same thing. But because I'm the one like, you know, setting up the base camp, I will be like, you know, as best I like basically used like as a model for the thing. So how do I want people to show up? Yeah, I think so, like devoted, but like struggling in different ways that all maybe like, yeah, like an openness about what they struggle with and a genuine desire to like connect with each other and like help each other. Which, yeah, I'm definitely like gathering up all my like that energy inside myself in preparation for this container. Yeah, I want people to be excited about each other's work and each other, like be like really rooting for each other, and having, yeah, just like an earnest desire to walk the path to like change in whatever desired way. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. It's juicy. I like that it was forbidden to say it particularly. Yeah, but it's fun also hearing that because I'm like, okay, yeah, and then you can work backwards. Like, well, how do you show up like that? What supports you to show up? What kind of container can you design where you can show up in that way? And I don't know if this is like a very loopy questions or loopy inquiry, but yeah, what comes first, chicken or the egg? How participants show up or how you do, and yeah. But yeah,
I actually do feel stuck on that question. Like, how can I create a container that encourages people to show up that way or facilitates it? I mean, that connects to the maybe like one thing I can think of is like getting people invested in each other or something.
Yeah.
That's something I asked advice about. But there's also the commitment and structure aspect. Like, I'm not sure how I can get people to show up like committed and like wanting to commit at least, if not already committed. Honestly, the money thing is like one way to do it, right? The fact that it's a paid container, that helps.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a thought, and that thought, like, a friend of mine is on my shoulder, like, kind of, because we talked about this recently, which is like about, what it is that one attracts has to do with the clarity of the signal put out. who is it for, right? It seems like, people who like are sort of developed enough, right? Or like, that have sufficient surplus in certain like capacities, right? So maybe less a healing container in that regard, more like a,
Yes.
you know,
That's I love that you brought that up, Victor, because just like I said earlier, it's like, yeah, this is not a healing container, it's not an emotional work container. Um, I sort of one thing I also struggled with when writing the copy and designing it was like the balance between like seriousness and playfulness. Because I think, but yeah, I ended up writing a very earnest, like very like if you want to devote yourself to the fire of the, whatever language, um, to like make sure I got people who really felt strongly about this. Um, but yeah, I never thought of it explicitly in terms of like I do want people who are have capacity to like care for others, not just themselves, um, and who can give in equal bounds of what they take, and also, yeah, maybe this is one thing I was also like, I was like, is this going to be a problem or something? Like, um, getting people who are reflective enough to provide value in their feedback to others. Um, like, uh, like my friend was like, one failure mode of crits is like sometimes you go and people are just like not saying anything useful, or you don't like anyone's work, or like everyone's just saying nice things. Um, but I also think that it's not necessarily because they're the wrong people, but maybe because the leader or the holder of the container didn't set the clear example of like how to really support each other and really get in there. So how do I do that? Hmm. Yeah, that's something to think about. I want people who have capacity, um, and I want people who have the capability for being reflective, which and then to support like those qualities in the people who come. Okay. Yeah.
I'd like to share an experience that I had around this. Like, how do you get people who have the capacity? And like many years ago, I was really like hosting like workshops on nonviolent communication, and I was living in a house that was created like community around that. And one weekend we created like a nonviolent communication festival weekend, and we sort of like open space and I remember there was a few people there who had never come across nonviolent communication in their life before, and I could tell in the beginning they're like maybe a bit more in their shell, and but by the end of the weekend they were sort of really opening up and expressing themselves, communicating a lot more like fluidly and from their source and from their truth and from their inner world a lot more. And they hadn't had to go through any like training or whatever. It was more they picked it up because they were immersed in enough critical mass of people around them who sort of demonstrated it. It was just in the ether. And that made me think or realize that sometimes you don't need to have everyone in the room being like getting it or having the full skills of being able to be super reflective or being able to coach one another. But if there are enough people, or maybe even a few people, like seed people, who can demonstrate it with you, you don't need to be the only one to hold that. And I just wondered if the people who you said have already been to your shown up at your events before and kind of know your style, if you could chat with them about that vibe that you want to hold, and that they can hold it with you, or make sure you have enough people who you really know that they have that skill and quality. Yeah, just wondered if that would be
Yeah.
supported here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's making me realize I hadn't explicitly verbalized what qualities I want in my participants, or like want to encourage in my participants.
Yeah.
This is very inspiring. And it feels like we could keep going through the other questions, but I want to be fair to have enough time to uh, hear about Victor's project and yeah, invite us to wrap up if um, there is a final reflection or I'm sitting here with curiosity about how do you feel now compared to how you felt when we started and if you feel like sharing, no need to.
Yeah, thank you. I feel so supported and like seen and got. Thank you all so much. I'm definitely gonna be like revisiting the video and yeah, like thinking harder about just more intentionally about all these things that I hadn't thought to explicitly think about. And also just trust myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I got this, and I know what the vibe needs to be. Yeah.
Yeah, feels sweet to hear that. I'm also happy to share the chat if I download it for you
Thank you.
to have it to reflect. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yay. How do you feel about a little pee break? Anyone stretch? Yeah, come back in 5. Good. I'll leave the recorder on so I don't forget later. Welcome back, everybody. I'm ready to listen to you, Victor.
Thank you. Okay. Um, so I I reached out maybe back in December, November, something like that, saying, "Hey, like there was a call to share." No, it was like there was a call to be able to share here. I was like, "Oh, I want to share about Liminal Commons," and like whenever it was that I said that I wanted to share it. Between then and now, like the meaning of the thing has changed. And so like it feels kind of funny to come and to talk about something that like is in its current state. So I'm also kind of like now pulling back in my body and sensing like where I'm at because I've been in this deep work cycle for like many, I don't know, good 6 months, 7 months, uh, and I've not been in the social containers that have kind of like helped me keep sort of you know grounded. So I tend to go into my head and to start thinking about all the technical things that I'm doing. So I'm going to make a conscious effort not to do that and to like look at your faces uh, and so I'm going to invite, by the way, like if anything comes up, like what I want to hear is like what comes up for you kind of in the moment. So I'm going to invite like hand raises and I'll be watching you and I'll pause when I'll see them. Or I might complete a sentence and then invite. Okay, cool. All right. So what's up for me is uh, I'm like 47 now. I've, had a 20-year kind of like, thank you, engineering and then like a product management career. I was married for 20 years also, um, and like something changed for me, which, led me to kind of realize that like, oh, I have um, valid thoughts and feelings about what's going on in my life, and I don't like the way things are going and so like I chose to make changes and I also like was introduced to this notion of um our times right now kind of being consequential, as in like introduced to an idea like meta crisis or human X risk and like all of these very heavy ideas, and that kind of triggered something for me. It was kind of like it reminded me a bit about learning about death when I was 8 years old. I can remember kind of like lying in bed and thinking to myself and weeping gently because like I knew that my parents were going to die and I was going to die, and it was like kind of a thing to reckon with. So what to do? How to show up in a world, now as a human? It's like not something I could turn away from. So I decided, after like leaving my marriage because it wasn't serving me, that I would, and like I lost my job because like it didn't feel consequential. I didn't go back trying to find another one, but instead it was like, like what's for me? Um, and so like I hosted a thing online, the Vibe Cafe for like 3 years, showing up and meeting people and creating relationships and that was it was really special for me. Like I think I developed like a lot, and among those things was um like wanting to be able to live in a way that makes it more likely the kind of world I want is going to emerge just from my being, right? Just from my being me. And I think that I want that for like everyone, and that like things like hosting Artwhole containers comes from kind of a thing that's true about adults that are um, developing and achieving a certain level of like personality integration and are able to show up, you know, more fully. And I feel like when adults do that, that they're able to generate more in the world than if, say, they are incentivized to just go to a job and swap time for money and like sell goods or something. So I'm driven by this question of how can we create containers or the conditions where more people are able to, um, you know, metabolize, whatever it is that they need to metabolize in order to be able to show up more fully. And that can look like doing very vulnerable things, um, such as like hosting things online and inviting people into things, right? But for me, like that was really transformational because like I didn't show up with anything other than sort of like an aesthetic and myself and talking to people, right? And yet through something that simple, like I had my own like personal development and transformations, right? Um, so that leads me to kind of similar questions to what um, um, maybe was. Oh, I see a hand. Thank you. I was going to continue.
I just want to highlight and echo that it was so simple as that,
Mm,
enough to be so powerful and transformational for you.
thank you.
Obviously, I highlight it because it resonates with me because I'm always looking for something that's more complex. And then again and again, it's just so simple that it's like, what? Yeah.
I have my mind is kind of looping on this. Yeah, that you'd like the world to emerge. I wrote down, I like the world. I want to emerge just from me being me. Then he said, and I want that for everyone. And there's something in there. I wonder to what extent you're still not sure what that you being you would look like and what it would be like to show up. What is consequential for you? And it made me, whether or not you have that clarity, or it did make me wonder about how does anyone discover what is theirs to bring, whether it's Artwhole, whether it's Vibe Cafe, whether it's a circling or authentic relating practice or pottery. Like what is it that is each of ours to bring? And often the things that I've discovered about myself and that I've only realized it in with the right people around me who reflect back my strengths to me. Like I always thought, oh, I really like to navigate conflict for people, but I didn't see myself as confident or good enough at that. And then I joined the Hum, and Guy has seen me evolve through that process over a few years and be much more confident about it and being able to call myself a mediator and realizing that really gives me a lot of joy and meaning. And I wonder, yeah, like how maybe it's more of a relational process than a let's look inside on our own and sit and reflect until we know. Yeah, and there's like such simple things like troika or I don't know, like case clinics that can help with that, but just generally having the intention to reflect back each other's goodness and gifts. Maybe that's, yeah, I don't know, just a little, that's where I was sort of looping around when you were speaking, what caught my attention.
Mm. I'm enjoying this. I want to hold for a moment to see if there's anything from Michael or maybe. There doesn't need to be.
I feel inspired by what you share. That feeling is there's a soft fire, almost like a light in a windless space just above my diaphragm, ushering me along. And I have a sense that this is the kind of inspiration you offer to people in Vibe Cafe, simplicity of aliveness.
Hmm.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you, Michael. Hmm. Another thing that's true is that like I care about causality too. Um, I care about like um, like conditions where well integrated, caring adults um, feel as though their actions in the world matter. And like there's something that's also true, which is like that um, you know, the thing that I can do on my own, right? Beautiful. Right? I can experience that, and I think that that's like um, that there's something that's possible at the level of coordinated, large scale, like we's, right? Here, by the way, I'm saying a we is something specific, right? Like in this room, we're kind of a we, but we're kind of not. We're an us that's gathered here in this room. Um, there's a we that's possible, and that we looks like a kind of collect, like a group of people, moving something in the world, intentionally in alignment in the way that say like a team, like a soccer team is a we, right? Or like um, you know, an organization can be a we, right? But, but the people that I find like a resonance with that seem to be seeing what or like where like I can feel shared perspectives and where I feel resonance, um, are so often like isolated or like coming into their transformation initiated by reading a book or finding something online or like um and and it tells me that there's something happening in the world, that there's something in the world that's sort of like creating a diffuse kind of change in people. And so I feel this draw to create conditions that like help to cohere, right? Um, right. That is to convene and to make coherent, right? Something that's already always, that's already active in the world. One way that I point at that is to like, to point at the microsolidarity network, for example. There's actually many networks, and I feel like, microsolidarity network is kind of part of this sort of edge, not exactly edgeless, but network of networks that already kind of exist. And that's dope because like it causes things like this, right? Where we get to show up and like receive beautiful things from Michael or, share or hear shares from Maeby or it's like really cool. Um, if I think of network as like a distributed set of individuals sort of doing their own thing, then like, there's can be organizations and they're all doing their own thing. That's distinct from like an ecosystem, right? I mean, kind of. I mean, you could say that it's an ecosystem already, but there's something about thriving generative ecosystems that to me looks like more conscious relationality, like choices to like consciously adapt to what others are doing in a way that's mutually beneficial and generative. And that's hard to do, for example, like if I'm feeling as though I'm holding something and I'm doing my thing and like I'm there's this kind of thing about Western culture that has us with an imperative to do our thing and claim things that are ours, and can make it a bit difficult to do things that are consciously in relationship to others, and other creators, right? So what I want is a kind of generator function of more conscious and intentional interrelationality.
I think I'm noticing that I still am not sure what your product is. And I wonder if
Mm.
for me, I think it would be helpful to share that so that I could like sort of anchor all the things you're saying in relation to that.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
helpful for
Cool.
me. Yeah. Or I'm
Thank
just
you.
curious also what you're trying to do, what your project
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of pointing. And um and so for me, I think that it's helpful to have spaces to do that kind of convening and cohering. Now, what if there was an experience of these spaces, right? Where like I know people who have spaces too, right? And so it's possible to kind of like move between spaces where like, if I know that there's other people that have these things and like someone is showing up to my offering. So I overlap offering and spaces also, right? Like for me, like a space is great. It would be great if the space could mediate my offering so that I'm able to be in my space and, sustain by being able to like make money. So this whole idea of showing up in the world and learning how to give one's gifts in a way that enables, my sustainment and thriving, like that's an active inquiry for me, right? And like and Vibe Cafe was kind of like and it aimed in that direction, right? So this means that, like, for example, in our green room before this meeting, maybe when like you were sharing about what it is that you are doing, like my mind goes to, well, maybe is trying to create an a container that she's holding over time and online. And so my my um offering would be, how about the space, right? You create a space in which you're able to customize it so that you can um, make it most fit for the containers that you want to hold, be the kind of thing. And like, if in doing so, maybe knows about, a group of other people, who are also doing their own sort of containers that are distinct in their own. Um, Someone might come to Maybe, and maybe it's like, well, that's cool, but you're not quite a fit for me. Maybe I'm getting a signal that this person has not the kind of excessive capacity that would enable the kind of mutual or reciprocity that maybe is looking for. So maybe you might choose to say, I think you'd be a great fit for that space over there, that offering over there. That's a kind of like um, intentionally cultivated relationship with other people who are offering things that is conducive to a benefit for the whole, right? That I think is so like I want that. So it's just an example of a kind of dynamic that I think would be great. So what I'm building is an online village that's kind of like that. Imagines an online village, something like that, where there's different spaces hosted by different people who are at various levels of their own, integration and development of their own offerings, so that it is possible to show up and host something, even if it's very nascent, or to show up and offer something, even like if it's very mature. And that my world envisions that the network of people that I'm connected with, like, are the kind of people who are probably not just going to be selling knickknacks, but are going to be like making offerings that actually are deliberately developmental, like of the people that are coming for those offerings, right? And that a network of such people in such spaces, could create a kind of ecosystem that that's I don't know, a more powerful forcing function for development of people in the world. Lastly, if you'll stay with me for just sort of, so that's sort of like a 0 to 1, imagining that that kind of a thing could exist. And if that's a 0 to 1, what I really want is actually for that to be available locally, right? And distributed to prove a pattern that can be replicated. Okay, it feels like enough.
I have some ideas, but they're not organized yet. So I'll try. Um, when you say locally, like everything that I was thinking crashed and I was about to speak. So now that's why I'm like, wait, what? How? Um, because yeah, I I think I need clarification on that in terms of imagining
Mm,
something that I don't yet know.
right.
Like for me, it's like, is it either virtually or locally? And how is it virtually, locally happens? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Maybe it's not terribly helpful to point at that just yet, right? And there's a way in which like what I'm that like pointing at that is sort of even more ungrounded at pointing at the entire network thing that I'm talking about, or like this idea of an online village. But the point for saying it is like if it's a bunch of people online who are like in relationship with one another and creating online businesses, then like what's likely to happen is that people are going to have similar um, challenges in their operation, in their operations. Like, how do you form a business? How do you do the general and accounting? How do you do the marketing? Like all this sort of thing likely lends to people kind of specializing in things, and then sort of like is like an economic, not just sort of a relation, not only relational, not only economic, right? But also, there's if people are participating in such a thing and it's dependent upon a kind of technology, then either that thing that is mediating the, and managing the technology platform is its own sort of separate entity, like a Google or whatever, or maybe it could be collectively owned and a and therefore like a kind which would require a kind of governance model for collective ownership of such a thing,
Mm.
right? And so if it's genuinely sort of like an online village insofar as it's collectively owned and governed, then that means that and it's successful or thriving, then that means more people would want to come into it. But that's a challenge with a village. If it gets too big, it's no longer a village. You no longer have the relationships of trust that make and interrelationality that make that possible. So what I'm pointing at kind of imagines a certain size
Mm.
beyond which it's unlikely to grow. But if it's successful, then more people will want it. Therefore, it's likely um, to mean that there could be others of such a thing.
Okay,
And
so
therefore,
now I'm
yeah,
decoupling the
yeah.
idea I had about, like, I thought local meaning geographically local, and now I understanding that it's local in a different meaning of local that I had before, and something opened up in my brain and went like, wow. Um, And also, it makes me think about something one of the micro-solidarity principles is based on scale, and what you're bringing is like exactly that. And
Mm.
yeah, just resonating with back to the same old thing. It's about scales and
Cool.
what's possible within those scales.
Right. And so I'll conclude with I'm building a vibe cafe again because like I got so much out of it. And so my space would be like that thing. And so the online village that I want to participate in has a vibe cafe where Victor gets to show up. And that models a kind of way of showing up online that then others can participate in and bring their own thing to.
I feel, excuse me, I feel excited about the prospect of making online gathering more accessible. Uh,
Mm.
the TikTok thing that I'm doing is to help try to purify TikTok, similar to how X is feeling purified. People are gathering in real life and online. And this would be something I'd love to talk to you more about, help foster.
I'm inspired by you, like kind of similar topic to what Maybe was bringing, or one of the themes around, like being the role model for what you want, how you want people to show up, and just like creating Vibe Cafe and be like, this is the kind of thing I imagine. Like when you mentioned Vibe Cafe, it became much more concrete for me about what Liminal Commons might be or could be, like what kind of, yeah, projects or events or offerings would be there, and what kind of in what is I know like from being on Vibe Cafe before, it seemed that the point of it was very much around building relationships with people and friendliness and openness to new people and new ideas, and sort of sense of warm and welcome in the digital sphere. It was a really cool platform as a very fun alternative to Zoom, actually. So I'm also, like Michael said, excited about spaces that are a bit more have a bit more ease of relationality in digital spaces. I find it a really valuable concept and experiment. Yeah, it was cool doing it again. And I particularly found it exciting. I got a lot of resonance when you said, this is what I'm creating for me. Like, and while doing it, I'm also creating it for others. I think that's such a golden sweet spot when you create something that serves you and meets your needs, but also at the same time, like helps to support others with what they need as well. It's been like, those have been the most satisfying projects for me. And I think I used to think of setting up projects mostly for like, how can I benefit others? And this is for the rest of the world, and forgetting about myself and what would nourish me in doing it. Then I started to think like in a more like almost like selfish design way, it actually became much more generative and more fun. And I had more energy to bring it. Like I'm really thinking about the incubator residential tribe support experiment that I ran a year ago with a group. And that was so nourishing because we really created it for ourselves. And then others who were there felt very nourished by the space because the invitation was very clear because we wrote about what we want. And so yeah, that's kind of also hearing that in Maybe's share as well, putting the invitation out there for what you'd really like, and then you get people joining who vibe with that and make it really flourish. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I'll share what it looks like right now. It's got my developer console like open, and here's Victor in the middle. Oops, there it is. There I am. Right, and this is actually the Vibe Cafe map that it was in Gathertown, and I like just enjoyed it enough. So I was like, I want the feeling of going back to the thing that I came from. I don't know how long the map will live, but like, so, it's got the circle in the middle where people gather. There's like places off to the side where people can gather, whatnot. And so there I am. in the vibe circle in the middle. Um, I really wish that I had like been able to get the transcription and everything like working again. Um, but yeah, so there's yeah, that's the way that it looks right now, and the Vibe Cafe will live again. Cool.
Yay. Hmm. Thanks for showing it. I was like, yeah, I'm such a visual person that just seeing it made me connect to it more. And I appreciate the colors and the coziness of it. I just, it's yeah, it feels inviting to me.
Mm,
Like I feel I can sense the resistance to the virtuality before. Now that I've seen that I've touched the invitation in it, like that I felt the invitingness and the coziness, like the wanting to be there. In
mm,
contrast, I can get in touch with, oh, I was feeling resistant to the being more online, but I
yeah,
didn't realize until I touched the other side of it. So it's interesting. Hmm.
cool. Thank you so much, Keith.
And coming back to my role, I notice it's 5 to the hour, and I'm wondering, yeah, if you're ready to wrap up, and if so, I have the same question that I had for maybe before, like how do you feel now comparing to when
Mm,
you started sharing? Mhm.
mm. I feel like a delicious sense of dissatisfaction, which comes of like like I want to be able to like invite people now, like I want this to be like I want you know so it's sort of like the that longing uh that longing to yeah to go back and to invite micro solidarity to host maybe like a session for solidarity session in the Vibe Cafe again, which I think would be really delicious too. Ah,
I mean,
I'll also say, by the way, I really appreciate the shares. And in particular, Michael, you have this like um, really lovely gift of um, like sharing what you're feeling, and I felt really beautiful. Thank you for that.
I'm feeling definitely like a joyful sense of reconnection with folks from the network after having not been on the calls for a few months. And that's really nourishing. And I can feel my brain and my like hosty host like nerd out on hosting kind of vibe. It's just like, I've missed this. So yeah, revitalized in that domain. Yeah. I'm grateful for you, Keith, for hosting.
Are we all answering the question? Is that the idea?
I think it's open space of wrapping up. And if you feel like sharing anything, you do. Mhm.
Oh, not much. Just I'm tired. I feel like I have a lot to integrate. Um, yeah, like my body's telling me like, whoa, that was a ton of information, and we gotta go digest it all now. Like after a full meal. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like two parts. Like I feel like I don't want it to end, and also I feel the tiredness and like okay, enough. So yeah, sweet and a lot to integrate as well. Yeah. Um, I'm very thankful for all of you to be here. Yeah, co-creating this space together. Mm. And for micro solidarity organism to make it possible for us to be here. Mm.
Thank you. I'm kind of feeling conscious of like sharing a lot, and like the feeling of like much to digest feels like maybe I could do that differently next time so that I don't provide so much to digest.
Oh, to be clear, it wasn't like Victor's share was no, it was like the whole thing and all the
Okay.
feedback that I have to integrate and
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for me it's more in the inspirational digestion of things because it's like, oh wow, and you know, um, enthusiastic digestion. Mhm.
See
All
y'all
right,
next time.
friends. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here. Bye
Bye.
bye.